It's name recognition more than anything else. That's the biggest thing. I figured that out when I was at GuardianCon last year. It was the first night of the convention, and I walked up with somebody from Bungie. Now, I have never had communication with Bungie, but I shook hands with the individual, and I introduced myself as GrindheadJim. Oh, GrindheadJim. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it was an actual spark of recognition. Like, they just knew the name. Just run away with your time.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Stream Key Podcast, our show here at TRUgaming, where we talk with streamers about ways to improve as a streamer. This week, I'm really excited to have GrindheadJim on here for the very first time. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you. How's it going this morning?
It's going pretty well, man. How are you?
Good. I've got a nice big stein of coffee, so I'm just fine.
I'm right there with you. I got not quite as big, but somewhat big. So hope you guys are all doing well in the stream today. If you don't know how the show works, basically I talk with Jim, today's guest, about streaming for about 40-ish minutes. And then at the end of the show, we'll do a live Q&A with you guys about any questions you have related to streaming. If it's related to efficiency as a streamer, that's our main topic for today. We'll get into that a little bit. So if you do have a question, keep that till the end of the show. We promise that we'll get to it. We'll explain all that a little bit later. But yeah, guys, this is episode 23. We're getting in there now. Getting up to 25, we got to do something special, I think. Actually, we do something special for 25. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be cool. It's going to be live
I'm not special enough?
Oh, it's all special, of course. But, you know, 25th episode.
Special.
Yeah, we're going to do that one live from ECGC in about 2 weeks with like 3 or 4 people at one time. So that'll be a special little episode. But today's episode, like I said, is with GrindheadJim about efficiency as a streamer. And we'll get into that in just a second. But first of all, can you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself for people who maybe don't know you? Because you are new to TRUgaming as a sponsored streamer. Can you kind of just give yourself a brief introduction?
Obviously, GrindheadJim. I've actually had that name for 20 years. But I moved. It's kind of weird how things work out because before I moved where I'm at now in Iowa, I was a professional musician, and I had done a little bit of YouTube related to that. I did some video editing, but I moved here and I got the bug. I didn't want to play music anymore, but I wanted to do something. So I started doing YouTube under a different name, started a website. That started to fizzle out, and then I decided I wanted to kind of come back to my roots and be more of myself. So I decided to just go with this GrindheadJim name, really own it, and do a stream, YouTube, like the whole shebang bang. And it kind of coincided with the launch of the PS4, and once I got latched onto that bug, it kept going and going. And I think the stream really came into its own, honestly, when Destiny came out, and I just kind of rode that wave, and things have been growing ever since.
Nice. Yeah, we've had a lot of people who came into streaming from Destiny for sure. Some of our very oldest streamers were definitely Destiny main people. Side question, are you into Destiny 2? Have you kind of given up on that? Yeah?
Short version, I recently started a new podcast called Destiny's Not Dead. That should tell you how much I'm into Destiny, okay? Now, do I play it very consistently and often on the stream? No, I'll play it a couple days out of the week. Partially because the community enjoys watching me play that, because it's almost like I'm not playing anything. I can just I can talk my way through it. It's not a huge thing. I think that's more of why my Destiny streams are successful than it is me playing Destiny. I think it's because that's something I'm very comfortable with, and the more comfortable you can be playing a game, the better you can be interaction. So I make it a point to play that at least once in a while, you know, at worst once every other week, or even just half of a stream, something so that they can have that time, because that's kind of how we grew together in that kind of a comfortable environment,
right?
And kind of go that way. Now, I've been striving to get other games to that level of comfort, and I'm very close with that on Watch Dogs 2. But ultimately, I think that's important, and I think it's part of why that I get associated with it. Is not so much that I'm like great at the game or anything, more so that seems to be my element, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, for sure. And you guys might notice, like you said, Jim does have his own, I guess, multiple podcasts now, it sounds like. So I'm sort of excited for this episode because I don't think we've ever had another podcaster on before. So it's cool to have a podcaster on the podcast as a guest.
Podcastception, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the show. So again, just keeping on with some warm-up questions here. Where did your name GrindheadJim come from? Now, I kind of know, I can guess where the Jim came from. Well, Grindhead. What's the story behind that?
Well, a lot of people assume it has to do with like looters, like Diablo, Destiny, something like that. Nope, nothing to do with that at all. As I said, I've had the name for 20 years. It relates to a genre of music called grindcore. Napalm Death, Carcass, Exhumed, Extreme Noise Terror, bands like that. 20 years ago, well, now 23 years ago. I'm getting old, guys, okay? Don't let the red beard fool you, all right? So back then, I was in the western part of Pennsylvania in the United States. I was in a band, and that particular scene had a lot of different bands. It was one of those weird things where you had indie rock bands, death metal bands, industrial bands, ska bands playing shows together. And multi-genre shows every single time, great crowds. But there was a guy from an indie rock band just started calling me GrindheadJim because I was all about, you know, this kind of stuff, like this crust punk grindcore vibe. For those at home, I'm wearing a shirt for a band called Phobia from Southern California, which is like imminent grindcore crust punk, my favorite genre. The name stuck. I loved it. I hung on to it. It became my avatar kind of everywhere. And I abandoned it a little bit when I first started content creation because I didn't want to have to live up to the image of the metal guy. But what I found out was it was very inefficient to create a new persona. It was better. I should have just stuck with it. I really should have just stuck with it. And because I think I'd be a lot further along than I am now. So if there's something people, you know, my first tip on today's show, if you have something you're known for, just fucking go with it.
Yeah.
Don't be so worried about breaking away from something else. You are who you are, be proud of who you are, and flaunt the ever-looking crap out of it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome advice. I've been through sort of like a rebranding thing like that too, and you definitely take a bigger hit than you think, trying to move people from one place to the other and all that stuff. So
it can be interesting to create characters and stuff, and I like that. But you know, one place I go as an example, think of like professional wrestling. One of the most enduring characters in that that business is, say, the Undertaker. You don't even have to watch wrestling to know who I'm talking about for the most part. That's the guy that's rolling his eyes. Ooh, yes, we got Ball Bear, his manager over here. It's kind of always been the thing, and they kind of rebranded the tone of the character, but the basis of that character never changed. Whereas there are a lot of other guys in that business that would change names, change costumes, you know, like Triple H, you know, stuff like that. But I think the Undertaker endured because he stuck to the core of what made him who he is. And it was always a reflection of who he actually is. I think he was ahead of the game in that business more than anybody else. And I think with any kind of entertainment, any kind of creative endeavor, you've got to remember who you are at your core and project that, because it's easier, frankly.
For sure. This is great. We're not even into the main discussion yet, and we're already getting great advice from Jim here. So you guys can tell it's gonna be a good episode.
I've never had a discussion in my life, ever.
Never. Just don't ever do it.
No. Nope.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that backstory. Last, just one question to ask everybody. What is one of your favorite memories on Twitch, or maybe your single favorite memory, if you have one?
I have a bunch, but I will say that probably my favorite time has always kind of come back to anytime the community and I can link together in a very real way. And last year that came down when I was having some issues financially to do anything above and beyond paying bills and so forth. And I was set to go to Guardian Con in Florida last year, but I couldn't afford my flight. That was the one missing piece. Everything else was going to be fine. But the timing of it and being able to get the flight and so forth wasn't going to happen. And they banded together on one of my community nights and made that happen. And I was a blubbering mess. I'm like, thank you guys. You know, and then that it was cool because they got to see the a couple months later, they got to see the benefits of that because I was streaming from the floor.
Oh wow!
And they were just like, ah, but the thing is, like, I think that you can talk about a gaming moment, you can talk about a moment like that where they're very generous, but I think the best moments in this business come from a true connection with people. That's what it totally comes down to. You can have all the technology in the world, you can have the flashiest graphics, you can have a great personality, great voice, but if you can't connect with people, you're not going to have fun, and it's not going to succeed.
Yeah, that's definitely the foundation of Twitch for sure. It's just connectivity. I totally get that. That's awesome that your viewers did that for you, and that you were able to kind of, include them and kind of thank them by streaming from the floor. That's really cool. So
Whittle this year.
Oh yeah, you're gonna go this year too.
Going again this year. I learned a lot from that experience going down there and what I was able to do, what I wasn't able to do, and I feel like I am that much more equipped to go down, like to the point where I'm going to change my cell provider to do it, because I was able to. I don't know if they're going to have Wi-Fi or not at the center this time. I don't think they are. So I'm actually changing to a provider I know is really strong there, and it's going to go with an unlimited package while I'm there and stream like crazy.
Nice. That's awesome. I would like to see that hopefully in the future.
It'll be fun.
Cool. So let's jump into the main discussion here again, which this week we're talking about efficiency as a Twitch streamer. This is a topic that Jim came to me with, as most of our guests do. This is one that, I hadn't really thought of before in terms of, you said being efficient as a streamer. And when I initially heard that, I was like, well, efficiency, how does that relate to being a good streamer? But, as I thought about it, it seemed like a really cool topic. So first of all, again, I'd just like to get your thoughts on why this is a topic that you're excited about, and maybe some past experiences with it, or people that you've kind of emulated to be more efficient as a streamer, and kind of what that means in general. Sure.
I will tell you, in any endeavor that I have, whether it's YouTube, as a musician, in regular, daytime jobs, streaming, what have you, I have a pretty basic life philosophy. It comes down to this. Is there a way that I can do this with as little effort as possible without losing any quality and spending as little money as possible? That's really what it boils down to. So everything drives that. So as far as why I'm passionate about that is that the less time I spend on stuff that just doesn't matter, the more time I have and the more energy I have to put into what does matter. Because especially with streaming, people don't see the effort you put in behind the scenes. And even if they do, they may not appreciate it from the standpoint of they don't really know what that entails until they have to do it themselves. Case in point, when I started streaming from PC, which was about 8 months after I started streaming from a PS4, it was kind of like, okay. And I was learning each thing as I went. And I was trying basically every single thing that was out there, and then kind of whittling it down to the purest form of what that was, and then figuring out the ways that I could make that something that I could do consistently, something that I could do set and forget. I even with my house, I'm like that. I have a white remote that I'm holding right now. This has every light, major light in this room, plus my living room lights on a switch.
Oh, wow.
And this was $20. And the idea is that I can walk in here, sit down, turn on the lights, and go. Behind me, I have the Elgato green screen where I can go, it just goes right up if I want to use the green screen. So essentially, I don't have to move anything around. I don't have to do anything too crazy. And I try to automate as much software as I can, too, because it's something that is extremely important as far as catching all the base things that people do. And I'll explain that a bit more detail. But essentially, like, the only role models I had for streaming, what I would do is I would look at other streams and I would say, how do they do that? And I'd either ask them directly or I would just research the topic. And I find the longer I stream, the newer people that come up either don't have the drive to do that, or they just don't know where to start.
Right.
You know, and I've got solutions for that. We'll talk. but basically, those are the big things. It was like, how do you do this, and how can I do it better? Because I was working a full, daytime job at the time. I didn't want to waste any time.
So really, it sounds like it's a lot about just making the action of starting your stream as easy as possible, and just streaming for, not worrying about other things while you're on the stream. That's kind of what I'm getting.
At the end of the day, yeah, it's about making the act of streaming something that requires as little stress and effort as possible without sacrificing quality, and also to be a kind of a check and balance system. And again, as we get more granular, you'll see what I mean. But yeah, that's the base idea.
Right. So let's do that a little bit. Let's get a little more granular. One of the topics that you mentioned to me was bots and just sort of automation in general. What advice do you have for streamers about bots in their chat channels? Any bots that you particularly like, or warnings that you've seen, people using bots the wrong way, things like that?
I have a lot to say on this topic. I will whittle it down.
Okay.
The shortest possible answer is use the Streamlabs bot and don't use anything else. Absolutely stay away from web-based bots because, frankly, if the server goes down, you don't have a bot. And you also have a lot less control of those bots from my experience. Not to mention the fact that depending upon the type of computer you're running, if you're running a web-based bot, you have to have a Chrome or Firefox window open, which, depending upon how many extensions you have, are a huge cut on your resources. Okay? Not everyone can have a Grindzilla under their desk, okay? This thing costs more than 3 of my cars. So I have a cheap car. I have a cheap car.
Still.
Yeah. I don't say that's flaunt that. The point being that you put the effort where it's at. But with the Streamlabs bot, which I was using way before when it was called the Ankh bot, you have control over every aspect of what it does from top to bottom. And they add features continuously. Like they just recently added a feature to that bot where you can synchronize all of your commands, your song list, your playlists, everything together, and it goes right on your donation page through Streamlabs.
That's nice.
So no more having to create this Google Doc and synchronize this and that. I don't enjoy that. I think it's inefficient.
Right.
And their design philosophy in Streamlabs bot, Ankhart's a great guy. They will sit and give you good support. But the design philosophy is it's very much in line with my stream philosophy, is that we want to whittle everything into this one program and just let you run with it. When they integrated Spotify, that was huge. So like big piece of advice: if you're going to do song requests, use a bot that has Spotify and only Spotify. Do not use both. Do not use YouTube. The biggest reason for this, the number one reason, it is built-in troll control.
That's true.
Because all the best, like, if you'll pardon the phrase, ear rape songs, they're not on Spotify.
And the the knocking on one side, that's not in there.
Or like the or like whatever crap they have. So like with that in mind, you'll have people come into chat that they'll see song request in your title. They'll do a song request. The bot will be like, we only do Spotify, and they're like, yeah, and they leave. But the thing is, at that point, you don't even have to acknowledge or engage them.
Yep.
It just doesn't matter. Use the bots to create a barrier for trolls, and that will be different for everyone. For me, like I believe in a very inclusive community. I believe in having a very open dialogue. You can talk about anything you want to talk about, but the deal is, don't be a bigot and don't say anything that would oppress anybody else.
Right.
So no fascist, no racist, no sexist, no jerk offs. I mean, that's pretty much it. Beyond that, sky's the limit.
Right. So the bot can essentially kind of help you be more efficient with your moderation, even by not having to deal with a certain amount of people.
Absolutely. And the thing is, too, is that with bots, the command structure is great, too. I'll give you an example. I have a Stream Deck, and there's a feature within Stream Deck. I can actually hit a button and automatically trigger emotes.
Huh.
What I found the first few times after using that was that people were like, well, how do I do that? So what I did instead was I created a command in the bot that was like, for example, I have a little hype emote, you know. So I made a command called hype, and then I just typed out the emotes, and then made the command on the Stream Deck just that hype.
Right. So
that rather than teaching them the emote shortcode, I just gave them a command that they could do that.
Oh, that's cool.
Which takes, because to think about it, people are like, well, it doesn't take that long to just say GHJ hype or whatever. Yeah, but if you have to say that 10 times a stream, it takes about 2 or 3 seconds. That's 30 seconds a stream, 5 streams a week. You know, that's like 2 minutes over the course of 52 weeks. I mean, think about that. That's like an hour more of your time spent on just saying, what is good? When you could just do a shortcut that intuitively and subconsciously teaches them how to do it themselves.
Wow. Yeah, that's a cool idea. I've never heard anyone mention something like that before. That's it's crazy.
That's why I'm here, Ben. That's why I'm here.
Well, I just love that you put in that perspective, you know, like I would say the same thing, you know, well, it's only a couple seconds to type it out, but you're spending an hour a year on that or something, you said. So that's pretty crazy to think about. That's
another episode of this podcast that I could be on.
We will
more of my time for you.
Yes, absolutely. We're working through everybody and going to have some people back on a couple more times for sure. Right on. Cool. So another sort of a tangent question off that, you seem to like Streamlabs bot a lot for efficiency. Have you messed around with Streamlabs OBS at all? Because that's another kind of efficient thing.
I want to preface this by saying Streamlabs as an organization I absolutely adore. I think they're doing things very well, and I think they're going in the right direction. That said, I do not recommend Streamlabs OBS in its current state. For the simple fact that it is, and I want to put an asterisk on that, for people that already stream and already use OBS. Until Streamlabs OBS is a one-to-one comparative feature for feature, you have the customization, you have the control, which you don't right now with everything. Right now, it's meant to be a plug-and-play kind of situation. And for that, I think it's excellent. But as me, who has gone to great lengths to have a very customized, I know what I like, stream, there's zero benefit for me. Because I'm not fighting for CPU usage. I'm not fighting for RAM usage. I have 64 gigs of RAM. I don't need to worry about it.
Right.
But for the person who's got limited monitor space, is just starting out, or has a low power CPU, it's a great solution. It's a very good program. But they have their target audience in mind. It's not the experienced hardcore techie.
Right.
It's the, how the hell do I do this? I just got my first PC. What do I do? You know, or that, perfect. I love it. Absolutely love it. But I will say that the more serious you get with it, I think there are some small limitations that may annoy people. And they may not understand that there's more they could be doing. But I think that the program will grow, that community will grow, and that once they get it to that place where you can slowly take training wheels off within the program, it's going to be the place to be.
Yeah.
It's not there yet, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Really quickly, like, are there any specific things that you're looking for from it that aren't there yet? I don't mean to make this a whole Streamlabs OBS episode.
No. That's totally, it's a valid question. The big thing for me is that when it comes to resolutions and the way that you tune and tweak those within OBS, it's not the same. They have presets, and you can fool it. You can do the short code and all that stuff, but that seems to be way more work than just having your drop downs in OBS.
Right.
That's the biggest thing, because and the reason that's important, one of the things that I'm really good at is doing more with less when it comes to bandwidth. I had some severe ISP problems for a year and a half. where there were days where I had to figure out a way to try and make a 480p stream work.
Wow.
You know, with a fluctuating upload speed. I mean, it was up and down more than a pair of kangaroos in the mating season. Awful. It was awful.
That's a great metaphor.
you can keep that one under your hat, buddy. So essentially, I had to become an expert at like understanding what the bottleneck was. Like, how can I take all this data and then compress it down to this place where it's going to fit through a pipe that's a third or 20% of the size that it should be.
Right.
And OBS Studio, as it stands now, gives you a lot of options for that, and you can intuitively figure it out. Whereas Streamlabs OBS, you have a few presets, and that's about it. Bitrate obviously is controllable and things along those lines, but automates the process a lot, which is good.
Right.
If you have if you never have internet problems, and you don't want to be,
Right.
you don't even want to mess with it, you want to be bothered,
or you don't know anything about it, and you just want to be told what the best settings are. Exactly,
and that's fine. OBS even has that where you can go, just tell me what it is, and it'll do that for you. I grew up in this environment where you tweak it all yourself. So I don't want to push anybody away from Streamlabs OBS, but for me, I don't recommend it, and I certainly don't recommend it for anyone who's been streaming more than a couple months, because it just, at this point, just doesn't quite hit the mark. Although it's got some cool integrations, I'm okay without them. Gotcha.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. I just like getting some different opinions on Streamlabs OBS, because I feel like there are a lot of different feelings about it. So it's cool to get that perspective of someone with just more technical experience in that area. Sure. Let's get back on topic a little bit here with efficiency. So social media in particular, what are some ways that you help yourself be more efficient with social media, different social medias, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. And I'll sort of move into the next question a lot too. I've noticed that you use Twitter a lot. Like I was going through your media posts, and it just, I went through probably 20 pages, and it was like 3 days or something. So how do you stay so active on Twitter while also not getting sucked into it and staying efficient?
I would say that there's a couple different approaches to this. So for me, it's about removing the things you don't need to give you time to do the stuff that you do want to be able to be engaged in. So with that, I automate all the shit you don't want to do. So when I use a service called ifttt.com, India Foxtrot Tango Tango Tango.com. So what I do is anytime a stream goes live, anytime, like a screenshot of my stream, it'll say, hey, I'm live, do this and that, blah, 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 and it has the hashtag TRUfam in there and the GrindFam and all that stuff, and it posts it to Twitter, and it posts it to Facebook without me having to do anything. YouTube video goes up, bing, out goes the tweet, out goes the Facebook post, whoosh, out the door. And on top of that, my website is built on WordPress. So every time a stream goes live or I create a highlight, it creates a post on WordPress. Now, the way I have it set is that it doesn't publish that post right away. I publish it later. But it creates it for me. Gives me a little template I can mess with. So, like, the basic upkeep stuff, I'm going to worry about. Because I used to worry about it, because with it being automated, it can give the impression of, like, not being too personable. So I worry about that. But then here's the thing. I see streamers that will have these videos where they've got their Snapchat filters on, or their it's a different picture of them on, or they've got the same 6 pictures, and they'll say, I'm doing this tonight. Well, I found that as someone who watches streams as well as streams, if I like your stream, I'm going to go either way. Like, if you're already following me on Twitter, I shouldn't have to sell you on coming to the stream. You just need to know that I'm live, from my perspective, okay? Where the selling is done is on the podcast, is on the show, is in the videos. That's where the selling is done. And then you decide based upon the content that you will go. and this became my philosophy after I stopped using retweet bots, because those are useless.
Yep.
Absolutely a waste of time. So you get those out of there, get that list of ats out of there, get unnecessary hashtags out of there. So it keeps it very efficient, and also it's uniform, because now if you just happen to see a post by me on Twitter and you see a blur of a Godzilla with starting soon behind it and like a link to my Twitch, you know that means Mom's live. Let's go see Mom. My community calls me Mom. Long story. But the point being that makes it a lot easier, that you can now, it becomes a uniform thing. It becomes a ritual. It's community building there, because now they have like this Pavlov instinct. Oh, blurry Godzilla. That means he's live. Essentially, right?
Yeah.
Also, what's cool about it is that, say for the sake of argument, something happens or the stream goes down and I go back up. Well, if I start the stream over again, it happens again. And then you get two benefits. One, if someone left the stream because they thought you were done, they'll see a tweet. Oh, he's back.
Right.
Secondly, if my stream goes down midway through and I come back, I'm not doing the intro again. So now the screenshot goes out and it's me playing a game. So now it becomes variety. Like, it's built in. I never have to remember to do it. I never have to worry about that being done. So that's how I take away that stuff. So as far as being active on Twitter personally and how you're able to see all that stuff, what I do there is two things. Mobile app, more than anything else. And here's the secret. And it's not really a secret, because as soon as my friend told me this, I was like, that's simple. It's so simple. Buddy of mine, Beard Grizzly, big Destiny lore YouTuber, one of my best friends. I used to see notifications from him. So I originally turned on notifications for this cat because he hardly ever tweeted. And I used to beat him up like, you get on Twitter, you stupid. And it was just this thing where once he embraced the platform, boom, he was off to the races, because I was getting notifications all day long and it was starting to piss me off. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I said, like, what are you doing? And also, it seems to be working. So what are you doing? And what he said was, so remember, this is the guy that I had mobile notifications on, and those mobile notifications drove me to ask him what he was doing. Guess what he was doing? He had mobile notifications on a handful of accounts that he felt that these are either creators that he was on par with, like he had a similar. So it's basically, you operate Twitter the way you operate Twitch. You try to stay within your comfort zone a little bit. So get notifications for things that you think are important. Go with other creators that are around the same size, or you just admire and or friends, things that you're interested in. So when I get a mobile notification that pops off from someone that I admire, adore, or I think is important, if there's something I feel I can add to that conversation, I do. And as you've seen, I am the king of the GIF response. Yeah, like, I can speak totally in GIF, and it's fun. I enjoy it. So it's an art form unto itself.
Yeah.
So that's something that, and I don't think everyone should be doing the GIF thing necessarily, because that's my jing. All right, first of all,
back off.
Just back off. All right, but like, it's really about creating opportunities to engage others. And I will say that it becomes second nature at times, because it's no longer about promoting anything. I just want to talk to people.
Right.
So, and what I also try to do is provoke conversation too. You may or may not have seen a picture float around. It's just a picture. It says, if you used to be a guardian, then you never were.
Right. I saw that.
That's me, by the way. I did that. And it stirred up a bit of controversy, because it was meant to be a takeoff of an old punk saying, and also it was meant to be in character as a guardian. It wasn't meant as next person to say GIF dies, by the way.
So that was sort of meant to actually stir up conversation rather than...
Yes, absolutely. it started up a different conversation than I expected. But it had the desired effect. And, you know, I'll put it this way. The Destiny's Not Dead podcast had over 100 followers on Twitter before the first True episode went up.
Wow.
So it was one of those deals where I knew I was going to some weird waters with that in the first place. So I wanted to try and get people's attention, and boy, did that work. So it was just something where taking calculated risks with it. So, but again, it comes coming back to efficiency. It was I automate all the stuff I don't want to be bothered with, so that I have the time to experiment a bit.
Right. Yeah.
So part of that automation comes into like having a similar experience. There's a program called Push Bullet that I use on my PC and on my mobile devices. I can move files between each of them at will, effortlessly. So like I created the picture on my computer, and even though I put it up from my PC, I immediately just said, you know, I'm going to need this later. So I went ahead and I just popped it over to my phone, took 2 seconds. Push Bullet also can send text messages right to the computer and vice versa. Stuff like that. So there's various integrations you can make to where you can change workspaces a lot. So I used to be this guy that would sit in front of my computer for, you know, hours on end all day when I wasn't working a day job or whatever. And I decided that wasn't healthy. So at the very least, just for the sake of like my back and everything else or whatever, and my sanity, you need to get out of that room sometimes. And that's part of where like my renewed focus on Twitter came. So I'd be out in my living room watching whatever, or passively listening to a podcast or whatever, and I'm just and that's where I get all that stuff done. You know, so it's exactly. And granted, I don't expect anyone to do it at the level that I do it.
Right.
That's a lot. But I think fast, I act fast, and especially with the GIF thing, that's part of why I do GIFs. It's faster than typing.
But you've made a lot of taken a lot of steps to make it easy for you, right? You, like you said, you used automation to make it so that you don't have to do the regular posts that you do every day. You know, I'm live now, you can find me here, my website's here, or whatever. Those are all taken care of, which gives you the time and also maybe just energy and interest to do more different kinds of tweets where you know, maybe you just stir up conversation or you respond to somebody. You mentioned that you use mobile notifications for tweets. That is actually something I don't think a lot of people do. Do you focus on just a few people? How many roughly do you think you have turned on?
Maybe a dozen.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe 15. And it's mostly peers, friends, and then some, you know, some like not friends, but people I talk to, like more like almost peers is what I call them. So like larger streamers or content creators that I like talking to, or I just want to know what they're doing, and I'll occasionally engage. Like Professor Broman, I've been on his podcast.
Wow.
We talk once in a while, but we're not friends. I'd love to be friends with him. I think Ben's a great dude. He's got one of the best podcasts in the business right now.
Well, thanks.
One of.
I just meant as a Ben doing a podcast. I took that as a compliment.
Oh, yeah. See, that joke was so good it flew right over my head. That's good.
Man. Anyway.
Wow. I'm kidding, Ben. It's good. I did not even make that connection. I'm a jerk. So it's on me. The beard's weighing me down. So, but I have mobile notifications for him because he has his thumb on the pulse of what's hot all the time. Like he's that kind of businessman. So it benefits me to at least see what he's talking about, and I'll reply and I'll, you know, engage however I can for a few reasons. Not the least of which is if I can say something funny or interesting within the thread that he's in, that's going to get more eyes on there. If you look at my Twitter impressions, they're pretty up there, which helps. Does it grow the stream in a realistic way? No, it's not what it's for.
Does it?
It's name recognition more than anything else. That's the biggest thing. And and what I figured that out when I was at GuardianCon last year. I was at Hard Rock Cafe on the second day I was there. It was the first night of the convention, and I walked up to I don't want to name names, but somebody from Bungie. Now, I have never had communication with Bungie. I am not big in their eye as far as I know, but I shook hands with the individual and I introduced myself as GrindheadJim. Oh, GrindheadJim. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it was an actual spark of recognition. Like, they just knew the name.
Huh.
And I was like, you know, my eyes got really big like dinner plates, and I'm shaking their hand going like, shit, this is working. So it became a mission for me to be a little bit more active on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure.
Keep the name out there. Because I've got a name that's easy to recognize. And the more you push that name in people's faces, eventually, because if you have 1,000 impressions in an hour, simple numbers, someone's going to go to your profile. And then when your pinned tweet is links to all your shit, you know, there's enough, eventually it's going to pay off.
Right.
It's going to pay off. So
no, I definitely agree.
That's the reason I do it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's a good way to, if you're trying to grow a few close connections and potential collaborations, I think that's a really good way to make sure you're staying just updated on that person and staying involved with them. Again, I think most people don't use Twitter mobile notifications. At least I never have. I don't know a lot of people who do. But it sounds like it's a really good tool for just kind of making you stay committed to that and be able to select a few people that you really want to go long term with and stay active and involved in their community. That's really cool. I like that. Cool. So we are already at 42 minutes. We've gotten through, I think, 2 questions through discussion here, which
I tried to warn you.
No, this is great. I love going deep on topics because personally, I think that's how you get the most value out of stuff like this. It's just getting really specific and actionable. So hopefully people have liked this episode so far. We don't have a ton of time left, so I think we might actually jump into viewer Q&A now. I have a couple more questions I might ask you in the meantime if we're waiting for some. But if you guys have a question for myself or GrindheadJim here, just tag me at GreenChord in the chat about anything. You know, we're talking about efficiency today, but if you want to talk about something else related to Twitch or just questions for Grindhead, let us know, and we'll be happy to answer them. Quickly, I want to get your thoughts on Discord, because we talked about social media and Twitter in general, but how do you use Discord to be efficient still?
2 things. Find a couple bots, not a lot, a couple that do what you need them to do and use those. Don't get too crazy with it. The biggest piece that I have for that, it all comes back to, for me, troll control. Because the larger your stream gets, you know, especially if you want to give people an easy means to get to your stream, your Discord rather, like that's a good tool. But people will see that and they will exploit it. So what I do is I have what I call a holding pen. So when you first get to my Discord, they're automatically assigned a role that can only go to that room. Only moderators and the new role can see that room, and the bot then tells them, hey, tell us how you found the stream and who you are so we can get to know you. And if they don't respond, they don't get past it. Simple as that. I keep my community on lockdown because protecting them and keeping them comfortable and happy is more important to me than anything else. It's a bit heavy-handed, but it works, because if it's someone that has been talking in stream and their username's the same, if I see that, I'm automatically go click, click, and it's done. Right. My mods know to get that done. It takes 2 minutes to set up, and it protects you from so much stuff. The reason we started doing that was that I had forgotten at one point after a reinstallation to turn text-to-speech off. We had a late-night stream, and someone came into the channel we were in and just put a racial epithet on, like, it was like 30... just went straight down. And luckily, because I have every aspect of my computer sound is on a different channel. Discord's on a channel, all my music's on a channel, you know, desktop's a separate thing. So I can turn off one thing and everything else is okay. So in this case, as soon as I heard, I went, Discord, mute. And it didn't take long. in the moment, I was just so surprised. They had a few seconds, you know. So what I ended up having to do, muted that, got rid of that person, and then I deleted the VOD because I don't want to be responsible for that. And then we found that solution where I'm like, how can I put them in like this little gate that isn't obtrusive, it isn't offensive, and walls new people away for everyone's mutual safety. And I use Me6 for that.
Right. Yeah, Me6 is great. So it sounds like you really focus on sort of a smaller community on Discord and very, like you said, tight knit. You have to at least, you can't just hop in there as anyone really. You have to at least establish yourself as, you know, here's who I am in GrindheadJim's community. And then you can kind of interact with it more. I think it's a good way to do it, to keep it more exclusive too. In as much as we don't want to keep anybody away. Right. But at the same time, we want people to be there that want to be engaged. So if you're coming there to lurk, then you need to be at least comfortable just saying, well, I'm just here to lurk. I saw Twitter, I saw Twitch. If you can't be bothered to do that, then you don't need to be in the Discord, because the Discord's there to interact. Right. Yeah, I totally not for you to just, because if you want to just stare passively at my content, you've got Twitter and Twitch for that. Discord's a community. And I don't owe anybody anything when it comes to that. My community doesn't owe them anything. Right. On the other hand, 99% of the people that might fall in that category, they're trolls. Sorry. They are. Just so, yeah, it's just at the end of the day. That's cool. So we have our first question from Mr. Pure Instinct. He always has a question for us, which I appreciate. He says, sorry if you guys talked about this, but I missed it. What is too much or too little for your bot to post time messages in your chat when live? Do you do that at all? I do. And I have it. It's about 5 to 10 minutes, depending upon what it is. And it goes on a cycle. And it's just short little things. Here's Twitter. Here's YouTube. And it's just a way of keeping the chat moving. I've gone to streams where they have something go like every minute and a half. And jeez. Yeah. You know, there are times when even, because 5 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but in a stream, that's a long time. 5 minutes is a long time. If you've ever gone to an open mic night for comedy, 5 minutes is a long time. Whew. So I think 5 minutes is kind of like the sweet spot. But you don't want, when we talk about too much or too little, you don't want to have this huge paragraph. Right. Unless it's on if it's a timer, you want something quick and succinct. For a command, dude, have a couple paragraphs. That's okay. Like anytime that they're like, a lot of people don't know this, depending upon the bot, but I know that Streamlabs bot does this. If you have a line break within the command, it will create a separate post, creating those legible paragraphs of this big long vomit. So you can make it structured. And so I find, do the shorter stuff that are frequently asked questions, make them timers, not less than 5 minutes apart, but also make them commands you can bring up at will. Manually. So that's pretty much how I would do it. Okay. Pure, hopefully that helped you, man. About 5 minutes or so, or longer, depending on how long your message is. Slim Timmy is 13. He says, well, this is sort of for me. Will all the things he talked about link-wise be posted in the notes? Yes. Answer to that is yes. IFTT, I think it was. Is it 3 T's? 2 T's? IFTTT. 3 T's. Okay. I think Natlist talked about that too, with Instagram too. So it sounds like it's an awesome tool. That'll be in the show notes if you guys are listening after the fact. And if you're listening live, you can find it on the blog post next Monday, stuff like that. As well as Push Bullet, which you mentioned. That's right. Is there anything else that I forgot that you mentioned at all? Like the Streamlabs bot, is the big one, right? Aside from the two. So those are all the big ones. I do see a second half to that question as well. Yeah. Which says, does Grindhead help smaller guys like myself set some things up and help me learn this stuff? Yes, I do. I have a business called S4creators.com. S4creators.com. And if you go to s4creators.com/Discord, we have a separate Discord for that. It's a whole community of people that only help. Think of it like IT or a help desk for content creation. So this is, for stuff that just comes up all the time. Because some people either don't Google foo very well, or they can't or won't
or they're just having problems. Because the thing is, like, I've been streaming for 3 years now, 4 years almost, and I can't imagine how much time I spent in the early days figuring out all this really cool shit. If you whittle that down into hours, you know, we talk about efficiency. Well, learning is one of the least efficient things that you can do that is so important. So for like, we want to lessen that gap. So if it's something, it's a simple question. Well, how do I do this? We're going to answer it. It's no problem. But if you want really hands-on, one-on-one attention, we can do that. It's extremely inexpensive for what it is. And it's something that we're going to make sure you've got what you need. So because I'm sick and tired of people saying, we'll go do this, we'll go Google it. It's like, well, you know, because when I first started doing this, the feedback I got was, well, why would anyone ever do that? I can just Google it. I'm like, if that were true, that question would not come up 17 times a goddamn stream. Okay, there are people that want and need help, and no one's doing that. As far as I know, as of today, only we and another fella, Power GPU. His whole stream is around PC building, and he also does some stream help. But his focus is more on the PC building and PC troubleshooting, whereas we're more on the esoteric, ethereal streaming side of things. Right. So, like, he's awesome at what he does. We just have different focuses.
Gotcha. Cool. We'll go check him out. Timmy, it sounds like he's more than happy to help you out. Are you streaming today, by the way?
I am not.
Okay. Well, in any case, you guys can catch Jim at some other point, and I'm sure he'll be able to talk to you more about it on his stream as well. If you can't jump into the Discord. If you guys have a question again for Jim, let's say Tim there, just talking about Timmy, let us know again. Just tag me in the chat at GreenChord. Until then, do you want to quickly tell us about your own podcast, Jim?
Sure. The main one I do is called the GrindheadJim podcast. I've done probably a dozen different concepts of podcasts over the years, trying to hone down. And for a while, I tried to do things that were really specific and have like these different themes. And although I enjoyed that, when you factor in the editing side of it and the aggregation process of getting everything out there, it became really awful. I didn't enjoy it. So when it came time for me to finally do another podcast and really kind of revolve it around my community, I wanted it to be as open as possible. So the GrindheadJim podcast became whatever's on my mind, like whatever I want to talk about, topics of the day, the week, the month, the millennium, who knows. And the first few episodes were me just talking, and I decided I wanted to bring guests on. And when I bring guests on, I try to bring on guests that have a passion that is not related directly to how they stream, why they stream, or their persona. Like a lot of times I try to get something that they're passionate about that doesn't directly reflect them. You know, for example, I absolutely love 80s synth pop. You would never know that to look at me or talk to me. So if I were having myself as a guest, I'd want to talk about that. Because it's something like a little known thing. So it creates a new opportunity for engagement with that individual, and it's something new for my people. That keeps it fresh. While we're on the subject of my podcast, there's another automation that you can be aware of. We post all of our podcasts to anchor.fm. The reason we do that, it spits everything out to everywhere, because it is its own platform, and you can go to Google Play, iTunes, Pocket Cast, I think one more. Player FM. Yeah. And basically once I use that because it's easier. When that tool first came out a couple months ago, it was good, not great. Did not take long for them to realize that the traditional podcast had as much space as what they were looking for with that hip pocket kind of a, hey guys, because their whole thing originally was to like just talk into the phone, make a podcast. It's like, well, jerk, I've got all this expensive equipment. You really think I want to do that? No, I'm not. Right. So they really upped their game on the interface. And if you're thinking about doing a podcast using Anchor FM, it's free. And I've never been on iTunes faster than when I switched to Anchor. Like they went and just created the feed. It took like 3 days. I have manually submitted similar podcasts to iTunes and never gotten an answer and never got on.
Wow.
Anchor made it happen in days. I mean, come on, man. I see the F word every 3 seconds on my stream. Okay,
it's true.
So I understand. I understand iTunes. Love me, Apple. Love me.
Yeah, Anchor is great. It's a very new platform, specifically designed. The whole point of it is to make podcasting or just talk showing really easy for people who haven't done it before. You can literally just record from your phone and then send it out as a podcast right there in 2 seconds. Or now, like Jim was saying, they made it a lot easier for you to move existing podcasts onto that platform or just use that platform instead of other platforms.
Right.
You can find StreamKey on Anchor as well if you'd like to check that out, as well as Jim's podcast. So
that's right.
It's a good platform. I see a question from Lady Katisa. She says, GreenChord, what can a new streamer do to keep chat engaged and talking without using game bots which bog up chat? Do you have thoughts on that, Jim?
At the end of the day, like if anyone is using a bot to engage with chat, then you're doing it wrong. Period. You cannot automate engagement. Everything we're talking about in terms of convenience and automation is to take your effort out of the stuff that needs to be robotic so that you can be a human and engage with your stream. So, the bots are there to provide that convenience. They're there to provide, the basic stuff that you shouldn't have to repeat 900 times a day.
Right. And
to enable your community. So if someone says, where's Jim's Twitter? A moderator can go, ! Twitter. There it is. Okay. That's what that's for. The engagement process, if it's done right, can never be automated.
Right.
There's no tool. So the trick is, you're going to hear every streamer say this, but it's totally true. Learn the art of talking to yourself, narrate what you're doing, or just tell stories. The art of storytelling is the best, and just stretch those stories out, and if you're not sure what that means, watch stand-up comedians and the way they structure a story and how they can extend telling a story of something relatively mundane but make it entertaining.
Right.
Like people don't mention stand-up comedy as a model for streaming. It totally is.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Totally is.
Yeah, I would say with bots too, like Jim said, a bot, an automation is never replacement for engagement. I would say you can supplement with it. You're not going to be able to drive a stream just off of a bot. But if you're using that in conjunction with also being an entertaining streamer, I don't see anything wrong with that, as long as it's not just flooding the chat with bot messages. Right. So, I mean, it's not like a clear-cut answer, really. Some people like it, some people don't. Recently, we've tried it on the True channel with, I guess, GatherBot has some new stuff going on. Doc's been playing with that, and that's been seeing a lot of positive response from the community. So I think it's really just thinking about what your community wants to see out of a bot. And again, not just spamming links all the time.
Right.
So, see another question from GamerDad NC. He said, when you set up your lights and get ready to stream, do you have anything else to put on a sort of checklist to go live? Thoughts on that?
It's actually really simple. This room is set up in such a way. My lights, so right now in front of me, I have 4 monitors, 3 across, 1 above, and they're on a 6-monitor stand. The bars extend beyond the top monitor.
Wow.
And I have the lights mounted to that. I walk in, behind me is my Elgato green screen. I go, whoop. I pull up the green screen. I sit down. I turn on the lights. And then what I do is in this order, I open OBS, then I open Streamlabs bot, then I open my GIF bot and the Streamlabs notifier. Then I have a folder on my Chrome called Stream Startup, which has every possible website I would need in order of how I like them. And then I just middle click the mouse button. They all open in tabs. Once I have everything there, I hit the start button.
That's awesome.
Like I'm very systematic about it.
Yeah.
And it takes about a minute and a half, maybe.
That's crazy.
And the thing is, the trick is everything has a place. For me, I have multiple monitors because I use them. OBS and anything display oriented, anything that will end up on the stream, like in terms of like viewing wise, left screen. Gameplay is always center screen. anything that is like social media or like a backup chat window, top window. I also put my Destiny item manager up there if I'm playing Destiny. Right one is chat interaction. So all like my Streamlabs bot goes there. My interface for the GIF bot goes in there. And then, of course, the alerts.
Right.
So everything has a place to be.
Awesome.
And it's consistent every single time.
Right. It's a routine that you kind of get the groove of, and it helps you. I think that's really important, actually, is having routine, regardless of what it is. It just has been proven to help people perform better. So even as a streamer, just being consistent with where you put things and
gotta do it.
Even like a warm-up routine is really important, I think. So quick question I saw from Daishan about Anchor. He said, so you put it on Anchor and that platform shares it to the other platforms on your behalf? Yes. It's very easy to do.
Under your username, your feed, everything. It doesn't purport it as an Anchor podcast, but it does some subtle advertising for Anchor in there as far as I say, via Anchor or whatever, which fuck it. Like, it's fine.
See, you say that, but I've actually, I've thought about moving to Anchor. I've kept it on what we use instead, Spreaker, just because I noticed that it puts like a little ad at the end. I've noticed some, I'm a very, very picky audio guy, so I've noticed a little bit of audio difference. But there's nothing wrong with the platform, especially if you've never done a podcast before. Super easy to get started with, and I would definitely recommend it. Another question from GamerDadNC. We're kind of wrapping up here, guys, because we're hitting about an hour, but we'll take a couple more. He says, how do you slide in the social media announcements? Do you only rely on IFTTT and your Discord Go Live bot, or do you do anything else? Interesting.
Good question. What I do with the Go Live stuff is that, like, the actual going live stuff is automated. What I have started to do, or I do personalize a bit, is prior to the stream, like an hour, half hour, whatever, I'll put out like some kind of like, hey guys, in 25 minutes, and it's like some crazy animated thing or something to get your attention that breaks out of the whole like, oh, blurry Grindzilla, because it's something to kind of like let them know it's coming.
Right.
So the people that do have you on notification can do that. And I find that the Go Live has to be consistent, and it has to be reliable, because some people do have you on Twitter notifications, some don't. Some have you on, they have the Discord live channel. I have one just for that. They have it, they want a notification from that. Some have it muted. Some have the Twitch notifications, so they all have to be there.
Right.
And they have to be the same thing every time. But I feel like with Twitter being the kind of thing that it is, it makes more sense. Sometimes I'll do it through the Twitch, what you call it, their dashboard thing. I'll do it there sometimes. But I've never, ever heard someone say, "Oh, I saw your thing from the Twitch dashboard thing." Like, really? I've never, no one's ever said.
Are you talking about the Go Live notification?
No. What I'm talking about is let me find,
like
the channel feed,
the status that posts to Twitter or something like that, or are you just talking just about the Twitch channel feed?
I'm talking about the Twitch channel feed, because it does post to Twitter as well if you let it. I like that for some things, but I will tell you that it is not the tool that it could be. It's not.
Yep.
Like, basically, if they just cloned Twitter inside of Twitch, I'd be happy, and I would probably use that more than Twitter.
I think they've messed around with that a little bit, actually.
And it's there. It's there. The channel feed is there, but like, there's no GIF interaction, stuff like that, and the people they don't engage there. At least not my community, not the kind of people that I associate with. So use it because it's fun. But ultimately, I will put out like a fun tweet and put something fun in Discord, the same thing. Or what I really do, what I actually do, put out the tweet, copy the link, post the link in the main room.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I would agree. We have tried the channel feed stuff before. Seen very little interaction with it. It seems like it's better used for like kind of announcement things that are coming up that people
like events and stuff.
And it's really only the very top one, right? Because maybe if you're watching on desktop, you can see like just enough the channel feed that kind of interests you, but very little interaction on those generally.
I think it's a literal and ethereal case of they're not sure where to put it.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel that way. I feel like it's a great tool that it just, where do you put it on something that's meant to, you're meant to have a full screen interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And chat already encroaches on that, so it's like, because when I'm watching a Twitch streamer, what I tend to do is I'll pop out their chat, put it on my right monitor,
right,
so I can have a full screen of this. Because if I'm in a Twitch stream, most of the time I'm there for the long haul. So I'm already competing for screen space, and I've got more screen space than most people. But where do you put the channel feed? Like, I almost feel like they need a separate app for it, or a separate website for it. Or not a separate website, but a separate page, because it integrating it so far. I won't pull Mike Tyson. Wow, but don't hit so hard. That hurts. It's ludicrous. But I feel like that they need to have a different landing page for that, for it to really get its use. Or integrate it into the chat, something. Yeah. But I think it's something that can grow. I just don't know how.
Yeah, I think if they want to get the most of it, I agree. That's what they should do. Although, really, Twitter kind of does the same thing, and they don't really need it on Twitch because people aren't using it now. It'd be a cool feature, but I don't think it's hurting them not having it too integrated, because, I mean, what they have is clearly working already.
Sure.
But anyway, a little bit of a rant there. I think that is most of the questions I see in the chat, so that is kind of our show for today, guys. Thank you so much to Jim for coming on this show. Where can people find you, man?
They can find me at grindheadjim.com/whatever it is you're looking for. Another piece of great automation. Redirect your pages to your things. So grindheadjim.com/Twitter, grindheadjim.com/Twitch, grindheadjim.com/YouTube, and so it goes. Name a platform, put it after my website, you'll find me.
That's really cool. Awesome. We'll go to that website, guys. Again, this will all be linked in the show notes and description if you're listening after the fact. If you guys enjoyed the show, I'm going to drop the link to it in the chat right now. You can catch all past 22 episodes there now. GrindheadJim's episode of today will go live on next Monday, the 8th, I think? So, or 9th.
9th. Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. It'll go out on every platform, like we said, including Anchor and iTunes and Spreaker and everything else. So stick around for that. Again, next week we have Nero TNC on, who's a partner Twitch streamer. He's from the UK, and he's actually going to be on the front page of Twitch next week, and we're going to break that down afterwards. So that's going to be a really cool episode. Nice. And the following week, like I said, is live from ECGC with, I think, 3 or 4 people at once. It's going to be a panel with lots of viewer questions, so stick around for that. Really exciting stuff coming up for the podcast, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, we will see you later. If you're watching live, Doc is about to come back on this chat, so don't go anywhere. He'll be coming up next. Until next week, guys, I will see you later. Adios.
Bye. Thanks for having me. Satchel?
What's a satchel do?
What's a satchel do? It blows you the fuck up.